2, 3, and we are on air. Okay, we are on air. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear students and teachers, dear philosophers and non-philosophers, welcome to probably the first philosophical webinar ever. And if even not the first philosophical webinar ever, then for sure the first webinar organized by Berlin Practical Philosophy International Forum. Hello, hello. My name is Maya Nestroy, and I represent today the Berlin Forum. And I also have the honor to be a host of this webinar and some kind of technical support if you have some question, and also to support our presenter today. Who is our presenter? Our presenter is Krzysztof Skowroński, professor of philosophy at Opole University, author of books. Some of them I have with me today. So before we are starting, I can just show you the books. For example, the books about Santayana and America. The second book, Values and Powers. I don't know if you can see the covers, but I have another one, Beyond Aesthetics and Politics. And the last one may be the most exciting because it's a couple of months on the market. It's about Reuter's neo-pragmatism. I see that, Chris, you can be a little bit surprised, but the ugly truth is I haven't bought them. They are from library. So sorry, not sold. Yeah, I can't hear you.
Hello, I'm here. Thank you for the invitation.
Good. Yeah, we go back to the description of you because book is once, and the second, you are also an organizer of a series of conferences, American and European values, for last 11 years. And last but not least, you are one of the founding members of Berlin Forum. So officially welcome.
Nice to be here with you. Thank you.
I'm also happy. Okay, before we start the conferences, a couple of technicalities. So I see we don't have right now on our chat our guests, but we are live, we are on air. So welcome to all those who will join us. The important thing is you can just chat with us, you can communicate with us. Just please put something like hi and where you come from in the chat box on the right side of your computer, of your screen. And it's great because, as you see, you can just be a part of this discussion. You can be a part of this event, what is, for me, really awesome. But I think it's also nice for our international interactive discussion, because always philosophizing means doing something dialogical. So in the discourse, at least. Okay, I won't try philosophizing by myself. We are, I'm here technical support. Okay, so if you have a question to our presenter today, just click on the white cloud. It will be marked as red. Then we see you have just a question, and we'll go there after the presentation. Okay, so I pass this virtual microphone to you, Chris, and I'm very excited to hear your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a very nice introduction, so I'm quite excited about this. And so what I'm proposing is to show you kind of presentation, and I will be talking while showing you some ideas written on in a written form. Perhaps it will facilitate the understanding what I'm trying to say. So once again, hello to you, hello to our viewers. I'm hoping that if this webinar gonna be successful, we will be able to make a series of webinars in future So it's a start, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a good start. Good start. And by saying good start, I mean that we're going to have no technical problems, because we are now at different locations, very different locations in two different countries, and I think our audience is going to be international from still different countries. So technical problems, it can be just one real problem. The rest, I don't believe we will have problems. The topic, I think, is interesting, and something that may be fascinating for many people. So I'm just trying now to show you the presentation, and I will comment on these things you are saying, although I will propose you an extended presentation. So you can see the title, Can Philosophers Be Helpful in the Age of the Internet? At the very beginning, I would like to say that my answer to this question is yes, definitely yes. And I will try to explain why I think so. As each presentation, we have to define what is the target of the people we are talking to. So I'm trying to do it now. Who is the target of the present webinar? Well, it's not so easy to say, because it is the first webinar, so I have no idea what people are on the, what is the audience. So I suppose they are students and learners. But my target, meaning the way I will be talking, I hope will be accessible predominantly to students, learners, and anybody interested in philosophy, but also to teachers or those responsible for promoting philosophical ideas. So at this moment, I am unable to define and narrow down my message to a given target. So forgive me the generality of some of my statements. The other thing that has to be said at the very beginning is, are philosophers still needed nowadays? I suspect that some people think that philosophers are kind of old-style people doing unnecessary things. So my answer is like this. I do not believe that the internet can make philosophical reflection and teaching philosophy unnecessary, because irrelevantly of the medium and of the epoch, in my view, philosophy has, more often than not, dealt with profound conversation and exchange of thoughts between an experienced thinker and the learner. Hence, my main thesis here today is that the internet enlarges the scopes and possibilities of philosophizing by providing us with new possibilities. This is my thesis I want to develop. So the internet does not close, does not restrict philosophers in any sense whatsoever. This is my claim. Just the opposite. It does not close their activities, but opens philosophers to new scopes, new possibilities by new methods and new devices. And this is the thesis, right, I would like to talk about. Still, as a part of introduction, another question about what disciplines or philosophical disciplines we are talking about today, right? I cannot be so, again, strict, and I have to say in a very general, in very general terms, we are talking about practical philosophy according to the main, as if idea of Berlin Practical Philosophy International Forum. So we focus on practical philosophy, and we are talking about practical philosophy. But what particular disciplines or areas we are dealing with today? Well, we are talking about practical philosophy, meaning applicable to daily problems, But as far as the areas or disciplines are concerned, we can talk about ethics, ethics that deals with a good life and self-development, with cognition, or that deals with knowledge and communication, with social philosophy, dealing with ameliorating community, with political philosophy, that deals with improving pathological power structures, and aesthetics, that deals with style and image. Of course, it's a very general idea, but we have no time, and I think we have no need to go deeper here. So these philosophical disciplines will be dealt today. Within the area of these philosophical disciplines, I will be talking about the following thing, namely 6 points I would like to briefly discuss, in which philosophers can be helpful, as they have been for ages, and all of these 6 areas deal with the basic functions of doing philosophy. So what I want to do is, using these 6 points or 6 areas of philosophizing, trying to show you that internet is very helpful and philosophers can be very helpful for the activity on the internet. So these 6 points are as follows: creating ideas and ideals. Please do not be concerned if you do not understand the difference between idea and ideals. I do not think at this moment is very important. The second one, aiming at knowledge and wisdom. Also, the difference between knowledge and wisdom is something that we can talk about some during other occasion. I don't think it is very needed to discuss what's the difference. But anyway, it is very important to know that our knowledge is can be seen as something different than wisdom, and wisdom, it's not knowledge. And these are different things, are very close to each other, but they are not the same. Okay. Point number 3, making communication more clear and more useful. Again, clear communication does not necessarily mean useful, and the other way. Useful communication does not have to mean clear communication. But again, I have no need and no time to discuss this. What I'm just trying to show you in a second, that this is the 3rd area we can say that philosophers are very, very helpful or important. The next point, creating communities. The 5th one, making a difference by persuading others into doing something good. And the last one, self-development, self-creation, and personal growth. However, while talking about these 6 points, and this is something hugely important for our topic, I will refer specifically to virtual reality, right? I mean, to things specifically existing on the internet and not existing anyplace else. For example, internet forums, Skype, webinar, website, blog, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and similar. It is not my intention, and this is a remark I would like to stress. It is not my intention at this moment to instruct you as to how to use the media, or these modes of communication. Instead, my intention is to use some examples to answer the question, can philosophers be helpful in the age of the internet? So please do not ask me about specific devices and specific modes of communication. There are many of them, hundreds of them. It is not my role at this moment. My role at this moment is to answer the question about the role of philosophers in the age of the internet. So my starting point and my main message is philosophical rather than technical. I hope you understand this. So let me discuss these points. So for a couple of minutes, I will talk about point number 1, creating ideas and ideals. The main area, let me repeat, where I think philosophers can be very helpful. And I'm explaining this in the following way. One of the main objectives for philosophers has always been creation and development of ideas and ideals. However, very often they have been closed. I mean, these ideas and philosophers were closed in academia, where you have selected groups of people, students and professors, and perhaps philosophers and the ideas, perhaps sometimes, were part of the elitist high culture world. So one can say, as if a little bit critically, that philosophers previously created ideas for themselves and for the elite. Right? And now we have very different time where education is accessible to everybody, where internet is accessible to everybody, where internet education or education by the internet is accessible to everybody. So something has changed. Also, as regards with regard to the this status of students and status of instructors. Thanks to, for example, internet forums, philosophers can easily have a wide spectrum of social needs and issues and views and opinions and other things in specific groups of people, and have a better recognition for whom given ideas should serve, and what is the level of awareness of given issues. And what issues, you can ask? Well, for example, let me give just a few examples. For example, violence, justice, dignity. You know, violence, justice, dignity, these are ideas that can be seen from very many different viewpoints. In my view, when you have access to different internet forums as a philosopher, you go beyond the type of academic way of talking about violence, justice, dignity, and you have a better look into what people on internet forums talk about these things, right? So internet forums present the views and opinions of the representatives of all social strata with their concerns. Hence, philosophers can be helpful in converting these views into the language of ideas and ideals. So it is not just reading internet forums that can be interesting for philosophers. What is interesting is to see how different social groups understand the ideas, for example, of dignity, for example, of violence, for example, of justice. And the level of the awareness of these people, what violence or dignity is. Because if you study different groups or cultures, subcultures, you see that very often these issues, the same ideas, are seen in a very, very different way. So philosophers can be helpful as if to convert these opinions about violence, these opinions about dignity, into the ideas. What is dignity? What is violence, right? Okay, so this is one point, the first point, in which philosophers can be helpful. The second point is called aiming at knowledge and wisdom. Okay? Short explanation, and let me say a few words a little bit more about this. For ages, because philosophy has, 25 centuries of its history, 2,000, more than 2,000 years of written history. So it's a very huge, very long, very profound, very complex tradition. But for ages, books and written texts have been the solid source of knowledge for philosophers. And today we have more accessible sources, PDF versions of the text, ebooks, and audiobooks in the first instance. Apart from this, we have great encyclopedias in different forms. And some of them I'm pretty sure you know. For example, Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, perhaps one of the best on the website, on the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy, and Wikipedia in different entries. But not only this, also you have many, hundreds of sites devoted to particular movements and authors, be it pragmatism, American philosophy, Kant, Santayana, whatever. However, and this is the question I should ask at this moment, should not philosophers be consulted as to which of these sources are most needed to given groups of readers at various levels of their development? Is it not the case that in the ocean of possible sources of information, some learners get lost and discouraged as to which is suitable for them to see? Is it not chaos rather than some order waiting for those seeking knowledge and wisdom who have no guide explaining, for example, what are the criteria of a great book or a great artwork? Too much information and too many sources can frustrate at this point philosophers, can frustrate many people, and at this point philosophers can be helpful to those who want to learn in a more systematic and more profound way. Let me explain immediately that I do not want to claim that philosophers are as if privileged or as if special or irrepeatable people who have to be consulted. No, I'm not the guy who would say that. But I'm saying that philosophers can be consulted in order to propose or to provide us with the criteria by means of which we can discuss or we can take a look at the problem. For example, what does it mean a great book or a great artwork? What does it mean? In my opinion, philosophers have this, the devices or intellectual devices just to ask these questions, or perhaps better, to provoke these questions and to help others to kind of be able to see the difference between a great book and, well, just a book. Why is it important? Because on the, as I say, on the internet, you have thousands of books available. But how a person that is not, who is not prepared to select books from other books, how this person can know what does it mean a great book? Perhaps some people may say there are no criteria. A great book is something you like a lot. But perhaps it is not so. Perhaps there are some criteria according to which you could detect some, let me say, values that a given work has and the other work has not. We can say that this work is great, the other not great. Excuse me. So let me repeat, I do not think that philosophers are special guys to tell you what to do, or to tell you what you think about great art, great artwork. I'm just saying, these are people who can help in asking some questions and perhaps giving some suggestions with regard to the answers. Okay. Next point. Making communication more clear and more useful. Third point. third area or place where we can say that philosophers can be helpful. Let me explain this in the following way. Such forms of communication as discussing, arguing, persuading have been typical for philosophers for ages. So when you when you want to read, thick big book, more often than not, it is see how philosophers argue using thousands of words, many methods, many techniques to argue or to discuss for example, one problem, and to provide us with so many devices, intellectual devices, to reach some kind of conclusion about one problem or something that some people think that it's not a problem at all, right? It's just kind of puzzle or something. Anyway, this is a typical tool for philosophers. Argumentation, techniques of argumentation, right? So it is typical. And when I say that this does not have to be narrowed down to a classroom discussion or a discussion about the book, what I am saying that this type of communication can be practiced successfully by, for example, blogging, or by watching or recording YouTube videos, or by Skype, or discussion by Skype, and many others. By using these, for example, blogging, for example, YouTube, for example, Skype, you can see how many people are at your disposal if you just want to discuss and argue. So you can ask a question, so what about philosophers? Are they helpful here? You yourself can discuss by Skype. Yeah, it's true, but my claim is that philosophers can be helpful in providing you with some instructions as to how to discuss well and how to argue well, irrelevantly of the medium. We can have a good discussion and terrible discussion. We can have a convincing argumentation and unconvincing argumentation. So if you want to know more what kind of argumentation you would like to use in given contexts, I think philosophy is a good place to go. So I strongly recommend learners, and I mean learners, not just teachers. I repeat, learners, to blog and to present video, and in this way share with others, with your comments, inspirations, and ideas, in conviction that writing on your blog or talking by Skype can be a tool for you to learn how to communicate better according to your aims, or with reference to your aims, with the group of people you want to deal with. So my claim is that it is a part of effective way of doing philosophy, using these specifically, internet devices. And I repeat once again, from my point of view, as an academic teacher who's been teaching for many years, very many different students, I do believe that it's something profitable for each and every student and each and every learner who wants to know more, who wants to communicate better, that having your own blog, having your own recordings on video, having your own kind of conversations by Skype, discussions by Skype on given problems, philosophical or not, it is something that can be useful. However, philosophers are the right people to ask for help as regards the methods, the effectiveness of communication by blogging, by YouTube, by Skype. This is what I say. And at this point, I'm pretty sure that philosophers can be helpful. So, talking by Skype can be done by, and it's all by everybody, but effective, serious, profound talking by Skype is a different story. So it is the third point I think philosophers can be helpful. Okay, point number 4. Creating community. I have some problems in thinking, can you create community in reality, in this real reality, right? Perhaps you can. But I think it's easier and even more, in some sense, interesting to create or to enlarge community in virtual reality, not real reality, but virtual reality. And again, I see here a strong point for philosophers as well. So let me explain this. Creating community, or communities, of course, on the internet has a very different and specific character than in reality. And you know it, I'm pretty sure, from Facebook, webinar at this moment, and so on. People attracted by other people are attracted by ideas these people are propose. This is something that almost everybody has experienced. And philosophy, and I'm stressing, philosophy, not just philosophers, right? But philosophy as a science, or as a type of reflection, or as a kind of tradition or intellectual tradition. So philosophy can be helpful for all those who have some philosophical interests, of course, but how they would like to realize that. For example, by creating communities, these are just examples, creating community or communities around a philosophical figure. It may be your favorite philosopher. It may be someone you are fascinated with. For example, Santayana. Santayana is the guy I'm fascinated with, a famous philosopher, right? And you can try to create community, meaning collect, attract people who may be interested in the same figure. And you can work on this, on the enlargement, or first by creating, but later by enlargement, the community, the internet community, by making, I don't know, meetings, by exchanging thoughts, by having discussions, and so on and so on. But it does not have to be a figure, right? Excuse me. It may be creation or enlargement of a given community that is around a philosophical problem. Let's say philosophy of sport. I'm a sportsman as well, and I can see how much philosophy is around sport. So, but it can be any other problem you are interested in, or you want to solve, or you want to discuss, or you want to present. So you collect the people around this by the internet in different forms, and you can successfully enlarge. But I'm not talking about just numbers of people who listen to you or whom you contact. I'm talking elevation of the problems is concerned. Elevation of problems meaning that you discuss more and more and more aspects of, for example, philosophy of sport, and you go to a higher and higher and higher level of discussion with a greater and greater and greater number of people around this. This is what I mean, enlargement of community or creation of community. It does not have to be figure, it does not have to be a problem. It can be a philosophy movement or philosophical movement. For example, pragmatism. There are hundreds of people who feel sympathy or feel some affiliation, of some emotional links, I don't know, or intellectual interests. And they can be, got together by the internet, not only by internet, but by internet. It's easier, and it's faster, and it's more convenient. So, in the movement, you feel that it's something for you. You can try to do that, right? as well as philosophical activity. For example, you can join some philosophical foundations, and when you are good or when you have possibility, you can start something. You can launch a philosophical foundation. So, if you are dedicated to some type of philosophical activity, for example, promotion philosophy amongst kids, right? So you can join the people or the institutions like foundations or projects that deal with that, and you can do it by the internet, and you don't have to go out of your house to do this. So this is specifically, the internet thing, where philosophy can be really, really something interesting, and it happens. Thousands of people do that. So anyone can participate. Anyone can elevate his or her awareness, possibilities, opportunities with reference to his or her favorite area of philosophy or his or her preferable type of activity. And this point that I name creating community is linked with the fifth point. And let me show the fifth point, persuading and making a difference. So creating community or enlarging community is a nice thing, but even nicer thing is to make a difference, to persuade other people or convince other people into doing something good, right? And my fifth point talks about this.
We have some technical problems. Chris, are you with us?
Oh, yes, I am.
Okay, thank you, because for 1 second you weren't.
Oh.
So we jump to the presentation, because now we see the presentation, but at least we know you are there somewhere.
Okay, so now it's okay?
Yes, of course, but I see you. I don't know if you want to.
Okay. What about now?
Now it's just perfect.
Okay. So I'm continuing the point number 5, persuading and making difference. Making community, right, or helping in this enlargement and so on in Facebook, Twitter, as I say, is pretty good, but it's a totally different story if you want to motivate, to stimulate people around your project into doing something to meliorate. Meliorate, it's a philosophical word, meliorate. Ameliorate meaning improvement, right? Melioration means improvement, to meliorate social life according to some ideas or ideals. And it can be something positive, doing something good, but can be kind of negative way, or as they said in the Middle Ages, via negativa, right? Reduce bad things. An example can be, for example, when you want to reduce some forms of violence. So in a negative way, you're not doing bad job, you are doing good job by using negative methods, by reducing. You want to make a difference as far as reduction of violence or reduction of injustice is concerned. So philosophers can be helpful here and needed to help articulate the ideas and be present in new media. And another story, but be present in new media or social media for the persuasion and motivation of given social groups to action and given directions. So when you want to reduce some forms of violence, I think you have to be sure what is violence really. And if not, the people who practice this violence according to you would not say that what you are doing is violence, right? So at this moment a modicum of reflection, and I would say a modicum of philosophical reflection, would be very helpful. I think it would be difficult to do anything here without basic knowledge about rhetoric and persuasion techniques, nor would it be easy to do it without some basic knowledge as to how the proposed ideas should be vindicated. So if you say, for example, that a form of violence is, verbal violence, right? But okay, and you can say that you want to participate in the project to reduce verbal violence, right? So violence by using words. But you have to, in my view, you have to be sure that those people who use this do not treat it as a kind of game or something. And you have to be sure how to justify, not just to know more, but predominantly how to be more convincing for those people to reduce verbal violence, for example. And there are many examples of this. I don't want to go into details at this moment. What I want to do is to go to my last point, point number 6. I think it's hugely important. Self-creation, self-description, personal growth. So this is my final point, point number 6, dealing with self-creation and self-description and personal growth. And I think philosophers can be helpful here as well. And why I think this way, let me explain. Instead of writing a book about your views, you can have your website, for example, or blog, for example, that make them, your views or your image, I would say, your public image, informative, showing ideas and issues you are interested in, or descriptive, in the sense of showing the viewers or your viewers a story about you, your development, your worldview, your ambition, your articulation, and so on and so on. It is a good way for you to do something similar to what many philosophers have been doing before. Create a public identity for your viewers by the use of given description. And this given description would say who you are and who you think you are. However, and this is the strong point about philosophy, not everyone is aware of the social power or social impotence in some cases, social power of the discourse and narrative. And philosophers, especially such philosophers as postmodernists, neo-pragmatists, post-structuralists and others, seem to have a bit more awareness of this. And they can be very helpful in explaining the role of using this type of discourse for a given purpose, or that type of narrative to attract more attention of a given audience. Please note that philosophical coaching, very frequently by Skype, has become one of the advanced way of instruction for philosophers to teach about self-development and the way you describe yourself, and others, of course, but predominantly the way you describe yourself is one of the basic ways of that has to be discussed here. What I mean? Well, you can describe yourself by, for example, as a victim. That you've been suffering for some reason and you are innocent and the world is wrong, the world is evil and you can do nothing about that. This is victim mentality or description or victim discourse. And a part of the therapeutic, I would say, strategy that can be had from philosophers is, for example, do not change anything, just the way you talk about yourself. Stop your victim way of talking about yourself. Try to talk about yourself in a different way. Try to change the narrative. Try to change the way of self-presentation. By using this, Maybe yes, maybe no, but probably by using this, you will see that you will see in a different way your development. And you will see that your growth, the personal growth, will be seen by you yourself, in a little bit a different way. So it is just an example, right? It is just an example how to show you how discourse narrative can be important in this sense. So okay, so what I've told you is my. So I thank you for listening to this. My conclusion is that what I've told you is that philosophers, in my view, and I've justified my view, right? That philosophers can be helpful in the age of the internet, in these areas and many more. But I have no time to talk about more, and I would like to stop now. And if you have any questions, any comments, we'll be happy to hear. But well, this is my way of talking about these things, about these questions, these answers, and we'll be happy to talk more if we have time and we have questions at all. Okay, so thank you for listening to this part of my presentation.
Thank you, Chris, for this very inspiring speech. I loved it. And I also wanted to say right now just about the questions, because we are not alone. We have about 5 viewers on YouTube. So I say hello to you. We see you. And also like 6 attendees. So I know we are not alone with this room. So please just ask the questions, just type in the chat box. We will be very happy to answer. I hope you will be, Chris, very happy to answer.
I will be happy to answer them, yes.
Yeah, so please just do it, because this webinar is a kind of virtual seminar where we can just exchange the ideas and to criticize ourselves also. It's very important when it comes to philosophy, a critique maybe. And right now, because I don't see those who are just asking the question, but please do it. We will see it and I will read it out. I have my questions because I took some notes here. And the first question is, because you are referring to philosophers as those who are kind of privileged. Privilege, you was talking about it, but privilege in the sense that they have or are equipped in some kind of a special intellectual devices.
Did I say that? Did I say that?
At least you said that they have some intellectual devices, yeah.
Device, so, yeah. Well, but I did not say. I mean, I did mention that I do not feel that we are. I mean, professional philosophers, we are not privileged. This is my. I said that. I remember I said that. But go on with the question.
Okay, but still, you have, or they have, or we have some kind of intellectual devices. Okay. But even though they have those, they aren't present on the internet. At least in my point of view, they aren't present on the internet. So maybe, the whole tasks and stuff which you mentioned, those areas, of responsibility, they aren't fulfilled because philosophers aren't on the internet. So maybe, your lecture is a kind of story about a utopia.
Yeah, it's a good question. First of all, by intellectual devices, I did not mean some intellectual predispositions that are bigger than other people have. Intellectual device is simply, for example, that you are conscious of some categories by means of which you can describe, some things, right? But you're absolutely right that there are some philosophers like Zizek, right, that is present everywhere. But you're absolutely right that philosophers are not visible. I mean, there are few philosophers visible, but there are many philosophers not visible. I have some explanation to this. My explanation is that philosophers quite often are in the special, I would say, traditional mode of education. And this traditional mode of education is university education. So very often they are as if predisposed, or very often educated, or very often, I would say, how to say that, limited to the system of education that is reading books-based education, and it is within the walls of academia, of university. And university for them, it's such hugely strong institution that the energy of philosophers goes to exclusively or almost exclusively to the work within university. And when university does not want from them internet activity, they do not do it. So the the university wants from them classroom activity, so they do it. University wants from them reading and writing books, they do it. But I'm pretty sure when universities start asking the philosophers to be on the internet, they will be on the internet. But it is not the case nowadays. This is my answer.
My prediction is that it would be hard without any pressure, you know. I know many people who
Right.
just don't want to be up there, and it's kind of extra duty for them. So
Yeah.
it's nothing like that. Okay, we have a question from Aga. She asks, can the philosophers teach how to choose information the quite easy way? What do you recommend by choosing information for the personal development?
Well, yeah, yeah, interesting question. And this question is for me one of the most important questions anytime I'm in a classroom, because my students ask me, even by not asking me, the facial expressions are asking me the same questions. Can it be, I mean, the philosophical message can be put in a more, easy way or simple way? I would say yes, and at least at the beginning, I would suggest, I will not give you any book, but I will suggest you focus upon sensitivity. And sensitivity is trying to detect philosophical problems, philosophical issues, philosophical questions in situations, I mean, in daily situations you deal with. And depending upon your interests, and I don't know what are your interests and specific areas of interest, right? But if you are dealing with some everyday issues, and this can be meeting another person or watching films on TV, you can try to detect, not by your intellectual, philosophical knowledge, but rather by your sensitivity, trying to be more sensitive. In my opinion, it's a better start than just learning or reading big books on philosophy. For example, if you go to a cinema or if you see or watch a film on your laptop, try to ask a question. If you like a film, what are the features that make you like the film? Are your subjective features, you simply like it? Or these are objective features that the film has been constructed in some way, that it has internal things, that make it a good film, something like this. I don't believe you need at this level some specific book or some specific author. I do believe you need some specific sensitivity or being sensitive to sensitivity. That is a nice start to go deeper. But at first level or first step, sensitivity, I would say to daily situations, I would say it's a good start.
I would say thank you, Chris, but I would say you partly answered the question, because it wasn't the question about how to learn philosophy easier, but if philosophers can teach out how to choose information in quite easy way. So I think that is referring to to this point where you mentioned that there are so many books right now, so many sources, and maybe philosophers can help us to choose what is important for us and what's not.
Oh, I would not change my answer to this, because I would say philosophers should, in my opinion, and maybe it is a better answer to this question, should show sensitivity rather than teach sensitivity. This is what I'm saying. So the learners should try to be more sensitive. This is what I said. But after your correction, I would add philosophers, instead of being more something, they should show sensitivity. And this is, technically, it's easy, right? But practically, it does not have to be so. When you try to, not by books, but by paying attention to something and trying to show something at a moment or in a situation where other people don't care and they think it's just routine or something not important. And if teachers or philosophers can show this, I think it's a good start. But I'm talking about the start, right? I'm not talking about the deeper level. So I would say sensitivity is something more, at least at the beginning, more important, I would say, than specific knowledge about something. Knowledge is important, but I think it's a second step, not the first one.
So do I understand you right? Some kind of a philosophical sensitivity help us to filtrate information, or just to select information right for us, or just important for us. Yeah?
I do agree. I do agree.
Okay. I hope the question was answered. And just please type in the chat box more question. If no, I have still questions. You know, I'm the one who took a lot of notes. But the question is actually a kind of concern, because you mentioned you strongly recommend, you know, even for learners, just go there, just show what you get, just blog, make videos on YouTube and so on. And I had in my mind this book, The Reckless Mind, from Mark Lilla. I don't know if you know it. It's about intellectuals who were involved in politics and actually did some not very beautiful stuff. They actually promote the ideas which were, we would say right now, unethical. And, you know, if you have learners, they are not even those trained intellectuals, are just on the start. They just, you know, we could just say their intellectual devices are not so, you know, so well trained. So do you think, or maybe it is some kind of, I don't know, danger in putting up there any philosophical thoughts? And you mentioned also that those people are trained in rhetoric, so maybe they have some special, you know, special abilities to make more influence other people in you know, in more effective way.
Yeah, thank you for this question. And it is one of the reasons, it is really one of the reasons what you're saying, that I think philosophers, we are not privileged. And I'm very sorry, I'm really very sorry, but there are philosophers in the history and in the present time as well, who are not the guys I would personally follow, and whose sensitivities I would not recommend. So philosophy as a I would say, profound reflection is something I do recommend. But philosophy is a part of culture, or general culture. It is a part of life in general. And recognition of other people and other people's sensitivities is something very important as well. You know, what I can say, for me, I don't know if it is philosophical basis or political basis. For me, philosophy, ethics, politics they merge very often. Democratic mentality is something that can be safer than undemocratic. So when you are democratic, you recognize the right of other people to exist in happiness. So I think this is a good start. When you reduce philosophy just to knowledge and to some intellectual, what you say, you are using this word devices. Okay, it was my mistake to say that. Intellectual capacity, whatever. I think it can be a problem. You know, I don't. That's why I'm so sensitive to sensitivity. Because if you have intellectual whatever without sensitivity, for example, to suffering of other people, well, your philosophy, in my view, can be dangerous. So I think a philosophy great, but sensitivity, how to, what is a good life? Do other people deserve to have a good life? Something like this. This is something I would say it's basis, and the rest is, I don't know if I have answered your question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, important point, and I like you refers to Rorty and this point about suffering.
It is a
It's
part
always
of
interesting.
Rortian. I'm not Rortian in full sense, but I have some I have simulations from many philosophers, and Rorty one of them. But I would not say I'm 100% Rortian, right? But I love his talking about sensitivity, and I like his talking about different places in our daily life and cultural life when we can look for some philosophical ideas. Yes.
Of course, we were referring actually you were referring pretty often to pragmatism. It was maybe because of the books you wrote, but it's one point I like about pragmatism. It's this philosophy which should be, at least should be, close to everyday life.
Yeah.
And that is really, for me, very personally, very important about philosophy generally, this practical philosophy, which is not only, some abstract university discipline.
Yeah, this is what I like, and I would love to promote philosophy amongst non-philosophers, right? I like, although I do not love talking, the situation where philosophers talk to philosophers. I think philosophical message is important and should be promoted to everybody, not just to this, narrow or closed circle of professionals talking about everything. Nobody outside listening. I would say, let's talk. Philosophers can talk to each other, but somebody should be listening to them. So yes, I definitely agree that philosophy is something great, wonderful, and so on. And it is for many people, not just for a professionalized group of experts talking about things no one else understands.
Yeah, it's true. And I did it actually. You talked about suffering. And I say, oh, so Rortian, So actually,
suffering is a huge and important philosophical topic.
Yeah.
And what is suffering? What are the modes of suffering? Sometimes it's not so clear, what is suffering, right? And I don't want to develop this, but suffering is one of the, or cruelty is one of the most important philosophical or ethical issues. And I feel strange when only professors of ethics talk to other professors of ethics about suffering, for example. I would prefer a situation where philosophers are not talking to different audiences about suffering and making a difference, meaning as a result of this talking, we have some form of, I don't know, at least attempts to reduce suffering in some areas, some points, just by, for example, elevating the awareness of people who suffer but can do nothing about it because, for example, they think they do not suffer. They think the world is like this. It's normal. So when you tell them it's not normal, you deserve to a good life, to have a good life, you don't have to suffer at all. So if you make this clear to some people as a philosophers, I think it's great. It's our job. It is our mission to do that. Not just talking to other people at conference, philosophical conference with papers, about suffering something. Yeah, this is what I think.
Okay, thank you. I have so many comments in my head, but I just leave it because they are strongly philosophical, about epistemological discrimination and so on. But yeah, we are not on the conference and we have a question. So the question is, How do you recommend to find, select information which are important and distinguish them from not important? Which criteria do you recommend to use?
Well, interesting question, but very general. Because I don't believe we have something important, not important, unless we ask important for whom and for what purpose. So I would recommend the person who asked this question to think important for whom, for me or for somebody, in what context, social context, and for what purpose. And if you show yourself or somebody these details, the question looks less complicated. So without knowing, without having no idea what this person is asking about, except that it's important or unimportant, I would say that important for philosophy is that it refers not to some single or tiny group of philosophers, but important is something that has a chance to be more universal. So more important problems are universal problems. So by universal problems, I mean problems that can be recognized as problems by many people, not by a small group. For example, suffering or cruelty, I understand as important problem. And the logical, technicalities, I do not see as very important, I would say. They are important, of course, sure. You can get PhD out of this. But it is not so universal. I mean, cruelty and dealing with this and showing to people of different, communities that you are doing something about this. This is important. But when you restrict this to some technicalities understood by microscopic group of people, I don't believe. But it is one of many criteria, right? So, of course, somebody may say that important is for me, for my future career. So this person, by this question, narrows down the problem. So, for example, somebody may ask, what do you recommend for me? And I would have to know what person, at what age, what interests, what ambitions, at a certain stage of my career, to achieve something, right? And then I would be more specific. And although this is not a universal problem, because it deals with one person, right? Her career or his career. But this would be important for this person, right? So it is not a universal issue. It is a particular issue dealing with only this person. But this is important for this very person. But it would be, as you can see, and I think you agree, completely different answer, completely different problem. So what is important, what is not, I think it's the general, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for this question. Also, thank you from Aga. Even though you tried to insult kind of analytic philosophers.
No way, do not tell me that. No. I love and I appreciate different types of philosophizing. I respect old, traditional, strong schools of doing philosophy, but I also respect the variety, I would call it pluralism, different ways of doing philosophy. But no, I'm not against any form of doing philosophy. I'm trying, there's 100 flowers philosophy, meaning that we do not attack anybody. We are just cultivating our views without criticizing others, right? So this is my way. So
thank you. I hope that is also that what we are doing here with this webinar. Aga, thank you. Aga wrote that she agrees with you, and so probably your answer was well taken. And it's okay. I don't see any further questions, and I would say we are just finished for today. It's finished our webinar. Thank you, Chris, to be our presenter.
Thank you.
To
My
be
pleasure.
our speaker. I can put our website for the people who are in the room, or maybe I think I can. But maybe you will, when I will, show our website, you can just tell something about the website of Berlin Forum, where it is to find, even for the future projects which you mentioned earlier for future webinars.
Yeah, so we are hoping to provide you with more webinars. I cannot tell you the details now. We will think about that. We will think about having guests, international guests. We will talk about specific topics that would be interesting internationally or universally by many people. It is one thing. Of course, as you can see on the website, when you get to this website, we are doing many things. And we are doing on daily basis. So conferences are, one thing, right? But we are also trying to promote practical philosophy in different forms. As you can see on our website, there are some artists, there are filmmakers, there are philosophers, there are educators. So we are not
Coaches.
coaches, philosophical coaching, something very interesting as well. So we are trying to develop and to enlarge this formula, develop community around this. And the name of our forum well describes what we are trying to do. So it is international, where English is the language, the official language. But also we have international people and practical philosophy and more conversation rather than instruction. This is what we're trying to do. So meeting, exchanging of thoughts, open, formula rather than instructing, teaching, and telling others what to do. But we are open and hoping we're gonna develop in different interesting forms.
Okay, I was showing you in the chat box the offer, so you could just like jump into our webpage. That is the offer.
Mhm.
And I also would like to mention that we are also on social media. We are trying, to stay in touch with you, to discuss with you more, and that is that in what we are just we are the strong believers in this kind of philosophy, and I hope it stays like that. Okay, so for today. Goodbye. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you for the viewers from YouTube. Thank you for the attendees who were with us today. And yeah, I say till the next time.
Yes, definitely, yes.
Bye.